dive into a little bit your role in the business and what that looks like?
I'm the founder and CEO,
Okay.
and we consider ourselves first an MSSP.
Okay.
We made the switch over many, many years ago,
Yep.
and in security job one period, no discussion.
Hmm.
If you don't buy this stuff from us, you're not a client. That's the way
Yep.
we approach it. So
Okay.
yeah, and then in co-managed stuff or other things, sometimes we have clients that only get the security component.
Yeah.
The MEXDR, whatever you want to call it. They get that and MFA stuff and training and all that. But another team handles their IT.
Okay. Understood. And what would you say are some of the trends in the market that you've been aware of? What are you noticing, would you say?
Well, that one is one of them. I mean, I'm just amazed at the number of MSPs that
Mhm.
still honestly don't take it serious. You
Yep.
know, the threat's serious.
Yep.
And I'm amazed at the number of MSPs that understand how serious the threat is to their clients, but they don't require them to put certain things in.
Hmm.
We treat, and I don't know how many others do this, but we treat our clients as threat vectors to
Yep.
us. And as everyone knows, we get the keys to the kingdom.
Yeah.
So if our threat vector is from a client, we've got to not only protect the client themselves,
Hmm.
but we've got to protect us.
Yep.
And that's why one of our we don't do incident response
Hmm.
for non-clients. That's too risky.
Yeah.
They'll be happy to talk to them if they survive,
Yep.
and so they don't have it happen again. But I'm not going to deploy somebody out there to start worrying about crisis management and all of that stuff.
For sure. Gotcha. And then what would you say is happening in the market to make it more challenging or easier to operate in?
Well, it's always that. Well, the tools are much better, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
you look back 10, 15 years ago, the tools were primitive,
Yep.
barely worked in some cases, and now there's just all kinds of tools. It's getting hard to keep up with them,
Yep.
and it's real easy to get sucked into switching and switching and switching,
Hmm.
and because there's so many out there and there's so much competition.
Yep.
Uh, I think that the M&A activity in the business is having a huge impact.
Hmm.
Just on a personal level, I probably get 5 emails a day,
Yeah.
somebody wanting to buy us. And that's just time consuming,
Yep.
even if you don't want to sell.
Yeah.
Um, some of the other trends, it's kind of refreshing to see more and more MSPs get serious about sales and marketing
Okay.
and building their companies to scale.
Okay.
And I think that has a lot to do with the sheer number of new consultants there are in business. For years it was just Robin Robbins for the most part. I know Gary Pica was there, but Gary was more of an ops guy, right?
Yes.
I'm not saying that's all he did, but he really helped with making you need to grow up in operations. And Robin was there to hold everybody's hand and march them through marketing and sales.
Mhm.
Well, now you could probably rattle off 10 of them right off the top of your head now.
Yeah.
And they all have something a little bit different. Uh,
Mhm.
and that's a big help for
Yep.
MSPs. I think there's so many owners or operators, right? They're setting up servers or whatever,
Mhm.
and we certainly have resources to tap into.
Mhm.
Can be a real eye opener.
Yes. And you said there are tons of different options for softwares and tools. What
Hmm.
are the couple of tools that you all choose to use? I mean, you said it's like you get flooded with choices. So how did you choose your tools?
Well, there was a point, and I don't remember exactly when it really started happening, but we had old Lab Tech was
Yep.
an RMM,
Hmm.
and we were an Enable partner, and I forgot some of the others. Kaseya, I guess, was around then, but
Hmm.
I consider those first generation products.
Okay.
They weren't very intuitive,
Yes.
and we used Enable for years, and they got better. But when I looked out on the market, I'm seeing the second or third or modern, you know, applications,
Yep.
that's all cloud based.
Hmm.
And I don't want to argue that on-prem or cloud. I think that argument's over with.
Yep.
But inevitably, it was all cloud, right?
Hmm.
Um, and so when we started replacing everything, we knew we wanted one thing: is we focused on what the objectives were for the tool, and we are a best in class company. Now,
Yes.
some people lean towards suites,
Hmm.
where they pick vendors that have a big suite of
Yep.
products, like ConnectWise does now,
Yes.
uh, and hoping that they'll have integration levels, but there are real good integrations. But that was a little rocky for a long time, and honestly, I don't know what that looks like now.
Hmm.
But we decided just to go best in class. So we, we weren't interested in what else the vendor was offering. For the most part, there's
Yep.
exceptions, but I just wanted the best RMM,
Yep.
that I could find, or the best PSA or whatever. And that's the company. Those products were just roll-ups of other solution providers. So
Yep.
the architectures and the integrations weren't good, smooth, and all this. And so when we're next class, once a year or years up to it, we'll look at the market getting better.
Uh-huh.
Evaluate it. If it looks better, we'll do a deeper dive on it. Otherwise, we'll just stick it on the calendar for a year or two later.
Makes sense. And you mentioned you've seen a big increase in people like focusing on actually marketing, in the last couple of years because they actually have to start doing that. How hard or easy would you say it is to attract quality marketing team members for yourself?
Well, I got Kinsey, so it wasn't hard at all for me.
There we go.
Well, here's what we did.
Yep.
I When I realized that we really needed to work on sales and marketing,
Hmm.
I took it upon myself, because I was the best candidate inside the company, to
Yep.
really learn marketing,
Yep.
and because that's not my background. And I spent a couple of 3 years really going to the gurus in the business, Robin Robbins being one of them,
Yes.
but also some of her mentors.
Hmm.
And I really learned a lot and read a lot and everything like that. And then about a little over 4 years ago, Kinsey joined us as an intern,
Yep.
and I was, and those are, and some of the tactics, as you well know, Robin uses is not, you don't learn that in college, right?
Yeah.
Which I don't know. There's a lot of careers like that, but
Yep.
nevertheless, I was showing her this, and I said, this has real world relevance. It's not, 100-year-old media, because you can apply it to emails and the principles are all the same, really.
Yep.
And so we started developing our own tools and techniques. Now, have we outsourced sales and marketing and all of the related things like newsletters and anything that's related to that? Yeah, we have, and we've had success sometimes and sometimes not.
Okay.
And but as time has moved on, um, I think that if you're going to outsource, you've got to make sure you pick a vendor that understands your culture and your
Mhm.
messaging, especially if you've spent a lot of time on your USPs. What makes your company unique?
Yes.
And we've spent a lot of time on, our values and our missions and our objectives and all of our uniqueness.
Yep.
And then you're going to have it, then if you want to outsource,
Hmm.
I think you guys do leads, right? You drop in leads or whatever.
I mean, that's
Or
part of it. That's part of it.
yeah, okay. Well, anyway, whatever you're looking for, that's what you want to engage with as a partner, because it's a
Yep.
it's a partnership. And I'll tell you, I don't know you probably know what the numbers are, but when you bring on a vendor,
Hmm.
if you're not committed to helping them be successful, you better think long and hard before you start outsourcing.
Yes.
When we make a commitment to a vendor,
Hmm.
we tell them that we are committed to investing time, money, and energy into making sure you're successful. We do
Yep.
not want to be the ones that screwed the relationship up.
Correct.
And if you approach outsourcing with that attitude,
Hmm.
and really invest the time, money, and energy into learning how they do things and what they want to do, as well as them learning how you want to do things and what you want to do,
Yep.
your chances of success are going to be much, much greater.
For sure. It's not a here, you take everything, you do everything. It's definitely a partnership when it comes to vendors, when it comes to bringing people on.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like it should be with your customers.
For
So,
sure.
yeah,
For sure.
yeah,
And then how easy or hard would you say it is to attract quality salespeople at this time?
it's hard.
Okay.
Yeah. Especially I'm in a small town,
Hmm.
so there's, there may be a half a dozen qualified, experienced people that can sell our
Yeah.
stuff. We've had limited success in that, but
Okay.
they haven't. It's only recently starting to become a problem, just simply because of our growth rate. But uh, we're working through it and working really hard on it,
Hmm.
and making sure we got the right people.
Yep.
But you need a system in place.
Hmm.
You just can't. Just because somebody's got a lot of sales experience doesn't mean they can sell this. This is a
For sure.
different animal
For
for
sure.
most people.
Yep.
And it is a relationship, and you really want to do the right thing, and act as the guide for that customer's or hero's journey, right?
Hmm.
But if you like talking to people, and you've got your ethical gears in the right slot,
Yep.
and you really believe you're providing a very valuable service, which we all are, we all know
Yep.
that,
Yes, for sure.
and that probably gets you about 75% there. The other 25% is just learning the tools and the lingo, right? You got to
Yep.
know, like, what, 30 different three-letter acronyms.
Yep. Pretty much. Um, okay. And you mentioned, small town, so it's sort of hard to find those kind of people. What are you doing specifically in order to expand the reach? Like, are you looking for places outside of your small town? What does that process look like?
As far as locations or salespeople or what?
Yeah, yeah. As far as you said, it was hard to attract quality salespeople. Like, so what are you doing to?
We can attract them, we can't find them.
Ah.
Yeah, that's the difference. But we've got, well, right now we're fine,
Hmm.
and we recently brought on somebody new that's doing great, and then we're refining we kind of did a rip and replace on our pipeline strategy,
Okay.
and so we're changing the wheels as we go down the road. So we've got somebody that started 3 months ago, I think, and this first of the year, we started really working on the marketing strategy and feeding it and trying to see what that pipeline is going to end up looking like. And we've just now gotten to this stage, but we're
Yep.
doing that entirely with scalability in mind.
Okay.
So what we're hoping to do
Hmm.
is to bring in people that may not that have good sales skills,
Yep.
and then all we've got to do is walk them through the process.
Yes.
That's where we are in size and scope right now.
Okay. Got it. And then what would you say your current competitive landscape looks like?
Oh, well, I think the best way to say that is we don't worry about it.
Okay.
And I don't mean that to be arrogant, although
Yep.
people that know me would say that's me being arrogant. But really and truly, we've always had the attitude that let's not worry too much about the competition. Let's work on making us better and better each and every day,
For sure.
and that's worked pretty good. So
Hmm.
every once in a while, wow, I'm surprised they got that deal, and then I'd look into them and yeah, okay. And let's get back to it's the relentless pursuit of perfection,
Yes.
right? All of us in this industry, there's no excuse for not knowing the benchmarks.
Hmm.
There's no excuse for not knowing the metrics, the key performance indicators,
Yep.
what the right way and the wrong way to do. And I
Mhm.
think for a lot of us, it's a challenge to make that leap. I think it's harder to make the leap from working in the business to working on the business. It's the biggest challenge for the small MSPs.
Mhm.
Um, but there's no excuse for not knowing what your metrics should be.
For sure.
and then adapting to those.
Hmm.
And yeah, so
And you mentioned, the importance of a partnership whenever you're working with a client. What are the best practices you found in order to actually get your clients to implement the security processes that you put forward and that you fix? Because obviously it's not a one-way street.
yeah. Well, we do have certain things that we require, right?
Okay.
If you got remote access, you're going to get MFA.
Yep.
And you're not going to have an internet protection suite. You're going to have a world-class EDR. And I don't care we don't need to get into MDR, XDR, and all that, but
Yeah.
you're going to have a good EDR.
Yep.
Then from right now, from that point forward, we have a unique assessment that we created, and it's NIST compatible and other things that in the security component of it,
Hmm.
we highly recommend additional things such as continuous cybersecurity awareness training, maybe a SIM tool, uh, a password manager,
Yep.
and those are things that we might start requiring pretty soon, as an
Okay.
example. And
Hmm.
then all the other stuff, you got your firewalls, and then you got to do your whole DR, business continuity and backup stuff.
Yep.
That needs to be robust. That's an easy sell.
Yes.
But we tend to say things like, if you implement continuous cybersecurity awareness training, that cuts your risk in half. Right now, if that's all you did, that it's going to cut your risk of a breach in half.
Hmm.
And so we do our best to inform the decision makers of where their risk profile ends up.
Yes.
And because if we don't do that part,
Hmm.
they could possibly be left with some notion that an incident won't happen to them. And that's not true.
Yep.
There's no such thing as 100%. If the NSA can be breached,
Yep.
anybody can be breached.
Yep.
So,
No.
and CISA just
Yeah.
recently.
Yeah.
So, but it's really about making sure they know
Hmm.
if they're not getting the optional cybersecurity awareness training,
Yes.
that's it. That's adding risk.
Hmm.
And if you don't use a password manager, that's adding risk.
Yep.
And how much more risk you want to pile on here?
Hmm.
It's not really that expensive in the big grand scheme of things. And we know what the benchmarks are
Yeah.
for their industry.
Hmm.
And we use benchmarking. So for example, in professional service firms, 10% of their entire IT budget should be spent on cybersecurity.
Yes.
Well, if you're spending only 3%, you're missing something.
Yep.
So, do you want to plug that gap? Do you want to bet the farm that gap's not going to be exploited?
Yes.
Really? You really want to do that?
Yeah.
You're going to leave the front door to your office unlocked every night? Really? This is easy, it's cheap, painless. You really want to do that?
Yep.
So when they understand the benchmarking component, which I think is important for prospects and clients to understand,
Yes.
that don't pat yourself on the back just because you're way underspending against your peers.
Yep.
You got problems, you got gaps,
Hmm.
and here they are.
Yeah.
Here's your gaps.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the reasons actually I got into the space a couple of years ago is I was buying a boat and like emailing back and forth with the vendor, blah 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 blah, and like was about to send a wire and then realized it was like someone had gotten in the middle there. I was like, holy crap! Like that's like
Oh wow.
multiple tens of thousands of dollars, and it's like holy, so that guy had a serious breach, and I guarantee he's just a small little boat builder. He definitely didn't spend anything on
Oh yeah.
security.
If I only had a
Uh,
dollar for every time I heard it, who wants to attack me?
yeah. So
Yeah. And boat
no,
buyers are usually sending significant sums of money.
yep,
So, yeah, I understand completely. Yeah.
for sure.
I spend the bulk of my time evangelizing that. So,
Okay,
yeah,
no, makes
trying
sense.
to raise awareness. Even experts in cybersecurity don't understand the sheer size and scale of the criminal hacking industry. I
Yeah,
mean, they don't. I mean, they're really good. They're better at what they do than I am. But it's a big industry.
for sure. And then what would you say? What are you responsible for? Like, what are your main responsibilities at this time?
Uh, my main responsibilities is finance and marketing,
Okay.
and then just I'm a big believer in culture, so I spend a lot of time on culture as well.
Hmm. Okay. And what are the most important metrics for you? Is it pipeline growth, meetings with new prospects, new clients? Like, what's the most important prospects? Or sorry.
It's just MRR growth
Hmm.
and now pipeline growth since we finally got almost everything worked out. Our pipeline kind of dried up a little bit, and so we're kind of rebooting and restarting. So I'm going to be very interested to see what pops into the pipeline this year
Okay.
and start developing metrics, how many days to close, and that's going to depend on the size of the deal, right?
Sure.
So you get your days to close, and then I can start doing sales forecasting.
Hmm.
There's certain stages. There's probably a dozen books out there that can tell you,
Yep.
but basically there's three stages of the deal should be 25% chance of closing, 50%, 90%. You don't let salespeople make those numbers. You
Yep.
systemize it, make it a process.
Hmm.
And if you've got the stages defined correctly, those numbers should give you an actual cash flow forecast.
Yep.
So those are the metrics for right now. Of course, you got all others like what's the gross revenue to head count, but we are such an MRR focused company
Hmm.
that is by far over 90% of our revenue is MRR.
Yes.
So, which is not a good benchmark, but we're working on it. It's like you know what the benchmarks are. It's yeah, we should have more project work, you know.
Mhm.
And so, but you got to know what those benchmarks are,
For
you
sure.
know.
And then what's the goal in the next 6 months or 12 months?
Double in size.
Double in size?
Yeah, 12 months. Yeah,
Okay. For
yeah.
sure. And then what matters more than anything else in order to get that double in size?
More than anything else, well, obviously, sales and marketing,
Okay.
but I have the added responsibility of keeping scalability in line. You don't want to get ahead of your staff. And of course, if you're built for that kind of growth, you're overstaffed continuously anyway.
Yes.
The trick to it is not getting in front of your skis, either
Hmm.
with money or people or whatever, or spending
Yep.
expenses. That's a balancing act when you're growing at an extremely big, fast pace. You know, I think the average MSP is growing what 15% a year or 20 maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, it changes dramatically when you start talking 50 and 100%
Hmm.
in a year,
Yeah.
and it's real easy to you definitely work on the business
Yes.
if you're trying to pull that off, or you better have somebody really good looking at that for you.
Yes. And so that's definitely something to consider, considering you're wanting to double this year for sure.
Yeah,
Okay. And if you had a magic wand, you can make like one problem go away, one thing. What do you feel like that would be?
just one. Can I wish them all to go away? No, gosh, man, I don't know. Well, I wish the pipeline being dry would go away. Yeah,
Okay.
right now, today. Yeah, that's an obvious
Yep.
one. No one's ever asked me that before.
I usually do get about a long pause there, so I'm not surprised when you had a pause. That's like, I really enjoy that question.
Well, see, I'm sitting here thinking about, okay, if the pipeline's full, now what are all my other problems that I've got suddenly?
Yep, you got to
It's,
identify what the choke point is.
yeah, yeah, getting ahead
Okay.
of the skis. Yeah.
Yep. And then what have you tried before in order to fix that? What didn't work?
Oh gosh. Well, we use so many different types of what. Well, I'll tell you this: the first vertical market that we got into was an utter and abject failure,
Okay.
and they desperately need our stuff,
Uh-huh.
but they had no budget. I had no idea how little money that industry had. I mean, it was a big blue ocean business.
Yep.
but they don't have the money even today. And that was the first vertical market that we really dedicated. We're doing trade shows and lectures and just all kinds of stuff.
Mhm.
And after spending 30, 40, $50,000, and we've got $1,000 worth of sales,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, it was a dead end. So choose wisely on your verticals,
Yep.
because that's kind of a thing nowadays is, get some vertical or a vertical to specialize,
Yep.
So choose that vertical just because it looks too good to be true. Believe me, there may
Yeah.
be a real reason why they're not buying anything.
Yep.
And it never would have, it boggled my mind that they still refuse to spend the money.
Mhm.
So.
And what was that vertical? That was like events and such?
No, it was part of critical infrastructure.
Okay.
So as far as I want to get with that, but it was a
Perfect.
critical infrastructure business, so it's kind of serious that they get their security act together.
Yep.
So
That makes sense. And then
yeah,
what would you say is currently your biggest frustration and why?
that's similar to the other question, the problem question.
For sure.
Um, well, the biggest frustration, well, I'm still frustrated with that industry. It's so important to each and every person,
Yep.
but frustration. I really can't think of anything that's frustrating other than just normal, just minor things. It
Mhm.
varies from day to day.
Yep.
I will say that I'm frustrated by I am frustrated by the people that we're trying to protect have no idea or they don't take it seriously. You kind of touched on that.
Yes.
And that's really just ignorance. They just
Mhm.
don't know. They don't
Mhm.
know what they don't know. And
Yep.
it can happen to me. I'm just a little boat dealer in, Fort Lauderdale or whatever.
Yeah.
And why would anybody want to hack me?
Yep.
And the answer to that is they don't know who you are. They will hack you and take $10,000, $50,000 and not even care or know who you are
Yep.
because it's all bot driven. It's
Mhm.
automated, or for most of it,
Yep.
and that's frustrating. That really does frustrate me in my day to day life. Yeah.
Yep. No, I've heard that a lot, and it's how do we get the people to understand the necessity of these solutions? Because people in the space are shitting their pants, excuse my
It-
French, when they
yeah,
see things, but then the people from the outside, they just don't see that.
yeah, and I've been accused of being fearmonger.
Mhm.
Well, you're just telling us all of this stuff because you sell it, and I go, no, these are recommendations from the White House,
Yep.
the CISA. These are international standards, ISO, NIST.
Yep.
COVID. I mean, everybody in our business knows they will tell you these same things. And if you really want to know the truth of it, if you really want to know what happens
Yep.
in the dark web, you would accuse me of being crazy,
Uh-huh.
tinfoil hat stuff.
Yeah.
And so, if anything, I've pulled back.
Hmm.
So I use that a lot in the educational webinars that I do is
Yep.
if you think I'm overblowing this, you're wrong.
Yeah.
You don't have to believe me on that, but
Mhm.
that's the fact.
Yeah. Okay. No, for sure. That's cool. Okay. No, that was great. No, I really appreciate it. Once we finish, the remaining interviews, I'll send that over to you, just compiling sort of the insights we've had from other people.